Scott McNair, injury attorneys, we fight for the win.
Good afternoon and welcome everybody to the Overruled podcast brought to you by the Scott Vignair Law Firm. This is David Vignair along with my co-host for today, Mrs. Caitlin Carrigan. Welcome back, Caitlin.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
We always love having Caitlin be a part of the show, and especially today because we have an incredible guest. Our guest today is Micah Smith, the owner and proprietor of a local small business, KIXXSOCLEAN. Micah has an incredible story. His business is really neat, and we've really been looking forward to doing this show because Caitlin has a history and friendship with Micah, and we're so excited to talk about his business, to tell everybody about his business and really get his business out there so people can know about all the neat things that he's done and started in his local company. Micah, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome to the Overruled podcast.
Thank you guys for having me. It's nice seeing you guys again, especially you, Caitlin. Nice seeing everyone.
Likewise.
Why don't we just let the elephant out the room, Caitlin? Tell everybody about you and Micah and how you know Micah.
So I like to think that I took credit for discovering Micah, but I think that's giving myself too much credit and not enough to the business owner himself. And so several years ago, and Micah, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was probably about 4 years ago. Is that right, when you started the business?
Yes, 4 years ago.
4 years ago, my son was trying to look fly for his first school dance. Micah has met my son Ryan as well. And we stumbled across Micah's business as, how would you best describe your business, Micah, in like a short summary?
I'd like to think of myself as just a modern day shoe cobbler. We do all of those things that the shoe cobblers offer, but so much more. Because if you go to a shoe cobbler, they're going to shine your shoes. They're going to address any issues related to the heels, but they weren't cleaning sneakers. They weren't repairing handbags and such. So I kind of just combined the old with the new and just gave it a little modern twist to it. That's how all this kind of just got started. I just wanted to take something that was kind of dying out and just give it a little bit of life. Because if you guys are fully aware that the cobblers, they're kind of hard to find nowadays unless there's just some gentleman still holding on. They're not as accessible as they were just a few years ago. So I didn't want to just do away with those type of services. I wanted to still offer those services, but also offer something that those guys weren't offering at the time, which was cleaning, repairing, regluing, resewing, repainting. So yeah, we kind of just grew all of that over here.
Well, and the great thing about it too, David, if you don't know, is Micah caters to what I would call like the luxury sneaker market as well, which brought us to him because my son wanted his very cool Air Jordans, I think at the time. I don't know if those are still cool. I'll have to ask my son or Micah. But we took him to get cleaned, and we heard Micah's story and background. And I was just so attracted to what he had, his vision and what he had done with his business and what he was doing with his business. So both myself and my son have been longtime supporters of Micah's business. I can say that I'm probably between son and I'm probably on my fifth or sixth shoe. But Micah, you really have taken us in and noticed this unique, I'll call it like a fashion phenomenon where we get to wear sneakers now as part of an outfit and kind of cater to that. Is that a fair way to say that?
Absolutely. Especially in day and age, as I tell a lot of my customers, people are not wearing dress shoes or formal attire. We have taken the formal attire and kind of modernized it with designer items or just a nice pair of cool, funky kicks. Here in the city of New Orleans right now, as you guys are fully aware, it's carnival time. And I can probably guarantee that at least a good maybe 40% of the individuals who will be attending these balls will more than likely have on some sort of sneakers versus the traditional tuxedo shoe.
Or high heel.
Or high heel. Thank you for correcting me on that. So, people's style, fashion nowadays is, I just say go for it. Push those boundaries. Especially in the corporate America, just the attire in that setting in itself has changed drastically, as you guys are aware of that. People are dressing more casual than so suit and tie-ish. But in regards to the shoes, yes, as you stated, yes, I target a more of a premium luxury shoe base. Majority of my clientele are bringing me high designer fashion items such as yourself and your son.
But that's not really how you, if I remember, Micah, when you and I first met, and I first started utilizing your services, you didn't have this brick and mortar shop. I mean, you were delivering, you were picking up, you were rolling around town, you were delivering shoes. So you've really come a long way since you started. Could you tell our listeners a little bit about that path that got you started in this business and where it got you to today?
So how all of this came about was during the pandemic. Everyone was devastated by either not being fully aware of whether they had a job or their jobs were downsizing. And at this particular time, as far as myself, I wanted to start this business, and the pandemic definitely could have discouraged me from not even getting started. But what I did was I came up with a very simple concept. I figured while everybody was at home during the pandemic trying to figure out what was going to be next in regards to their careers or what was going to happen with their kids' schooling, I wanted to offer a service to keep people looking sharp or at their best. So myself and another individual at the time who was helping me in the beginning stages, we came up with a very simple concept to just offer a service to care for people's luxury items. And at the time, as you stated, Caitlin, I didn't have a brick and mortar. So what I did was I relied heavily on the social media platform, Instagram. And it was most important for me to get the content out there so people could be able to see the work for themselves, because seeing is sometimes better than hearing.
I think what's so powerful about your use of social media, and that's KIXXSOCLEAN, just for our listeners, KIXXSOCLEAN, is you take a lot of before and afters. So you're offering a product that people can visually see what benefit you bring to that product, where it's a little bit more difficult for David and I. We can go argue in court, but people don't really get to see it on social media all the time. But you really have harnessed that and allow us to see some of the drastic differences in what you can do with that.
Well, I mean, like I said, the concept was very simple. Show a dirty shoe and then show it clean.
Yep.
And it just really took off from there. As you stated, I like to shout out the residents and the customers of New Orleans who have supported me in the beginning stages, because I was just myself riding around the city, as you stated, picking up people's items, and people just reached out to me. They went online, they sent a message. At the time, they had no idea of who I was or what the business really offered, but they took a chance on myself and my business, and I'm forever grateful for that. But the concept was simple. You reach out to us, we would schedule an appointment, we would physically come to your home or anywhere that you were comfortable meeting us at that particular time. Because as I stated, it was the pandemic. People were at home. People weren't moving all around, but I was. So I was uptown, I was downtown, I was in Metairie, I was in Kenner, I was in Baton Rouge, just riding around, me and another individual, picking up people's items. And people had no idea of who I was. But for whatever reason, people saw the work, they trusted in myself, they trusted in my team, they trusted in KIXXSOCLEAN, and we were able to pick up people's items, address those issues, and return them. It was really all about convenience at the pandemic. People had so much to already be worried about. The last thing I wanted them to be worried about was how they were going to get their items looking up to par.
I think you've hit on like a couple things that really stood out to me, Micah, about where your business is and where you come from that I want to highlight. One, you talked about the pandemic being a challenge and you overcame it. But like at the end of the day, as you know, right, like when you start a business, there's always going to be hurdles, and you can either come up with excuses for why it didn't work or you just push through it and make it happen, right? Like you just made it happen. And then two, I love what you're talking about from the marketing perspective. And I want to distill that down just a little bit, because on your social media, you take like a picture of the old shoes. Like when, like, for example, I'm an idiot and I'll wear a pair of white tennis shoes out to like a muddy festival and ruin them. And you get those shoes and you show that picture, and then you show next what it looks like after you've cleaned them. Very simple, right? But sometimes the simple is the hardest thing to latch onto. Like we want all these flashy things, but like you really harness something super simple and really put it out there, and it's just resonated with your user base. Talk a little bit about that. Like that I always loved that about your pages. It just caught on. It was simple, and it was something you consistently did. And I think you probably saw a lot of new clients from that, right?
Correct. I always remember that, like I said, I'm not fully aware or that knowledgeable in regards to the marketing aspect, but I know people have very short attention spans.
Yep.
And with social media being so saturated, you have to gain somebody's attention very quickly.
Yep.
So in my mind, the best way to do that was to provide just 2 photos, a before and an after, clean and dirty. So people could scroll, swipe, look,
And be
save
amazed.
it on there and be amazed and save it. I know a lot of people, I would always tell people, if you're doing something that works, stick with it. For me, in my line of business, that what works for me. So I didn't want to ever veer or get away from that. I know people rely heavily on the reels where there's these 30-second videos or a minute videos. And like I said, if that works, that works. But for my clientele base and for what people are looking for, they want to be able to see that transformation. They want that wow factor. They want to be able to say, well, this is what the shoes look like before they worked on them. And this is what they look like after KIXXSOCLEAN has worked on them. And it's like you said, it's a very clean, straightforward concept. And the customers seem to love that. And it has brought me to where we are today, David.
You're not just doing house deliveries anymore, because I got a chance to walk over to your space with Caitlin a couple of months ago, and you have a beautiful storefront in the CBD in downtown New Orleans, right by the Ace Hotel. Why don't you talk a little bit about that transition, going from being, somebody who did a lot of house pickups and just maybe working from home, or how you went from where you were working from in your previous space to that beautiful storefront built out that you have now?
Okay, so quick backstory. So yes, it started off just my vehicle, my home, myself, picking up people's items, bringing them back home, and literally cleaning them in my kitchen. Yes, in my kitchen where I prepare my family's meals. We were doing it in the kitchen. Doing it in the kitchen. From there, I saw the vision. I knew that as things went back to some sort of normalcy here in the city, that people weren't going to just be stationary anymore. People were going to be moving around. People were going to be back at work. Kids were going to be back at school. So I needed to be in an area that people could gravitate to utilize the services, because I felt that the mobile service was successful during that time. But as I stated, once someone's at work, once someone's bringing their kids to soccer practice, once someone is out and running, out and about, it would be more convenient for them to stop by versus me trying to track them down to pick up their items. So luckily, I met a woman by the name of Diana Knox, and her partner own Big Sexy Neon here in the city of New Orleans. So I'm all about manifestation. So I was riding down Arico Castle Haley, which is formerly known as Drive Street to the older crowd that may be listening. Right. And I saw this neon studio, and I wanted to purchase a neon sign because I knew eventually I would have the physical location to put that sign in my establishment. So I wanted to see it before it even happened. So I went into the establishment. I inquired about getting a neon sign. I had the opportunity of meeting her, and we got into a conversation that started off as 5-10 minutes talking about what type of neon sign I wanted, to getting much more personal. Long story short, this woman saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself at the time. I was in the beginning stages of, like a lot of people starting a business. I wasn't sure if I was going right, if I was going left. I just know that this is something that I wanted to do. So she asked me where was my business located, or where was it being housed? And once I told her that I was basically picking up people's items, she said, well, are you looking into getting commercial space? I said, I am. But I said, I don't know if it's something that I can afford. I don't know if the business is sustainable just yet to really, be all in. She said, well, I would love nothing more for you to have your business within me and my partner's business. And I looked at her so baffled and puzzled, because I'm looking around and there's a neon studio, and I'm saying to myself, there's no space for me in here. But to my surprise, there was a second story within the establishment that was I think it was 625 square feet to be exact. But it wasn't so much the space that I was in awe about. It was the fact that this woman who knew nothing about me other than from me meeting her at that exact time saw something in me, saw something in my business, and I wanted to attach her name and the business name to me. She knew nothing about me. So I want to thank Nate Schaefer and Diana Knox for allowing me and KIXXSOCLEAN to have a brick and mortar within their establishment, because they really helped me and my team get to where we are today. Had they not opened up that door for me and given me that opportunity, I can't necessarily say if I would be in the position that I am here today. I know that they would probably say that they don't deserve any credit or accolade, but their clientele, my clientele, it just it just worked. You know, they brought me a lot of business. I brought them a lot of business. They helped spread the word, and people were familiar and got comfortable with the business and knew that they could physically go to a physical address and drop their items off, versus just calling some guy who's riding around picking up people's items who they don't know.
Well, and that's one thing you bring up a really good point too, Mike. I think that's one thing that I so admire about the entrepreneurial community in New Orleans, is that it's comprised of such innovative and creative and powerful individuals with businesses like yourself and Big Sexy Neon, that everybody wants to help everybody. And I just really resonate with that, especially doing what David and I do, which is representing a lot of plaintiffs and individuals and wanting to help them in their legal troubles. But it really is somewhat similar in that it's good people help good people. And when, you know, a lot of the entrepreneurs in New Orleans, they will go above and beyond to help somebody like yourself because they believe in you. And I have found a lot of times, like, people want to pay it forward. You know, when you help and you receive that kind of help and motivation, you then want to go turn to a mentee and do the same thing that somebody's done on their behalf. And so I just think that that's so incredible. I really love to hear that, you know, you got that kind of support from fellow entrepreneurs in the city of New Orleans. And it's like to highlight that about our city, because I think it's something that we do really, really well. And sometimes it can help balance out some of the things that we don't do quite as well.
Yeah. So being a part of Big Sexy Neon for those 2 years were so great for the business and myself. I was able to learn about just how to properly have your affairs in order, because I'm not afraid to say this. When I first started the business, I had nothing in place. I was literally picking up people's items. I was not documenting anything. I wasn't a legitimate business. And being a part of Big Sexy Neon and seeing how they went about conducting their business taught me a lot. And I know a lot of times people want to take the attitude that they know everything. In this entrepreneurship world, you have to be receptive and open to learning new things, because there are going to be times that you're going to be faced with something that you don't know. And Nate and Diana, they took me underneath their wing and they made sure that I had my documentation in order. I had my insurance in order. I was just protected overall. And, you know, sometimes when you're in entrepreneurship, you can be so focused on the services that you're offering that you're not focusing on making sure that the brands and that you are protected as well. So they educated me on so much, in regards to just making sure that I had the proper documentation to be protected with my business and my brand. But, from the minute that I was a part of that family, because I still consider them my family, even though I'm no longer a part of the business. He told me from the very beginning, he said, man, look, I don't know much about you. I just see a lot of the foot traffic. You will not be here for long. And when he was saying that, I was saying to myself, man, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I'm comfortable here, you know. But I mean, as I said, they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And, you know, then opportunity came, as David stated, where I was able to come upon this establishment where I am currently, which is 730 Carondelet, Suite 103, New Orleans, Louisiana. And, like I said, being a part of Big Sexy, man, it was just it was trials and tribulations. It was ups and downs. It was growth, and I was ready to take that next step. And here I am. I took a leap of faith, and the business is doing extremely well here in this part of the city. I couldn't have asked for anything more, but like I said, in order to get to where we are now, I had to go back and you just let people know how I got here. You know, it didn't happen overnight. A lot of sacrifices, a lot of around the clock hours. But I mean, I tell people all the time, how bad do you want it? How bad do you want to execute your dream? Because as David stated, you will either make it happen or you'll make every excuse not to make it happen. And you have to have tunnel vision. You can't be worrying about any outside distractions because you may not have the support of family and friends as you expect or you would be hoped for. I know I didn't, but the concept was all about saving people a little money. Everyone's not in a position to go spend, whatever the amount is for those items that they would like to have. And if you do have them, I wanted to prevent you from going by multiple pairs or a new pair if I could just save you a little bit of money. So it was all about, I always wanted to give back. The objective here was never to really, make a whole bunch of money, even though obviously anybody starts a business, they want to make money. I just wanted to give back and save people money. If you know anything about, culture and, people like to look nice. People like to, like, as Caitlin said, when you look good, you feel good. And I mean, it's just that simple, guys.
You hit something, Mike, I wanted to explore a bit. You said in that discussion, talked a little bit about how some people like to talk about how they know everything, but like when you start out, you didn't really know much. And that's like a big thing I wanted to tackle right now with you. It's like one of the things, like personally, I don't really like people who act like they know everything because that tells me they're not intelligent or an open-minded person because none of us know everything.
Good thing you're in the legal industry, right?
Right.
But I'm really interested in people. One of the things I really liked about you when I got to start to know you a little bit was I could tell immediately you're very humble, you're very open-minded, you're very introspective, and like you don't think you've known everything. And I think without you knowing it, that's a big piece of your success so far has been that you are so open-minded and humble and willing to like learn the new lessons that come every day. Because I think as a business grows, you have different problems now, right, than you did when you just started. And so
Absolutely.
that's always a growth journey for us in being humble and thinking about what is the next thing I need to learn and tackle. So can you talk a little bit about that process?
For me, in my experiences, any opportunity that I had to, for instance, the podcast, any sort of information, I always want to educate myself. Wherever there's information being given, I want to put myself in a position to receive it. With this location where I'm at currently on Carondelet, there were a lot of factors that I didn't learn at Big Sexy Neon. As far as my signage on the outside of the building, the city has to approve. You have to get zoning. You have to get coding. There's certain colors here on the street that you are not allowed to have. So, being knowledgeable, being informed, and if you don't know the information, where do you go to find the information? I know that's a lot of questions that people have asked me, where do you go to find out about certain things? And I would say the internet is a good source to find out information if you don't have that personnel to kind of guide you through entrepreneurship. I don't know if I'm answering the question correctly, David. I'm just really just basing off of what I did to figure things out.
I think I remember you telling me at one point that this business in and of itself was like a learning opportunity for you, that you don't necessarily have a background in cobbler services or shoe cleaning, right? Like, weren't you doing something completely different before you started your own company? And then you've learned to grow into this a little bit.
Well, that's not so correct. So I've always had knowledge. Where I gained my knowledge from cobbler skills or cobbler knowledge would be from my grandfather. I know I mentioned to both of you, I've learned everything that there is to know about dress shoes, about purses, about shoes from my grandfather. I watched him for a greater portion of my life care and repair items. He was a very frugal man. He didn't believe in wasting anything. No one in his generation did. But I watched and I studied him. Now, I don't know where he necessarily learned his information from. I don't know if he educated himself along the way, but everything that I know, every service that I offer today is from him. I learned everything from him. And the actual solution that I have behind me on the shelf is actually his concoction of solution to clean and bring these shoes back to life.
Do you tell our listeners what that is, or is that a proprietary information, Micah?
I plead the fifth.
Formula.
Or better
I
yet,
plead the fifth.
tell us, Micah, what is You have a handle on like what percentage of the shoes that you clean are like typical dress shoes versus tennis shoes or collector type of like Air Jordans, like that type of mix? Like,
I clean, let's just do on a week to basis. I clean anywhere between clean or repair, anywhere between 10 to 30 pairs of heels a week.
wow.
When it comes to tennis shoes, when it comes to the sneakers itself, and that varies between just basketball tennis shoes or designer tennis shoes. Our intake here at KIXXSOCLEAN, we probably anywhere between, on a slow week, about 45 pairs of shoes. On a good week, maybe maybe a 110. Because the average customer is not coming in with just one pair of shoes. They're coming in with 3 or more, and it can add up quickly. It can add up very, very fast.
I think I saw on your social media the other week that somebody had brought in, it was literally, if anybody saw KIXXSOCLEAN on Instagram, it was a mountain of shoes. Do you remember how many?
Yes. It was 16 pair. Well, it was more than 16 pairs, but we were able to comfortably fit 16 in the photo. The most I've ever gotten at one particular time was 48 pairs of shoes. A gentleman, he had gotten married. He was cleaning out his storage unit, and a lot of his shoes couldn't be housed in his apartment, so he had them in a storage unit. So he found out about the services, and he just brought as many as he could carry at the time over here to our establishment, which not this establishment, when we were at Big Sexy Neon. And he brought in 48 pairs of shoes at one particular time. And we don't have a cap on what someone could bring. Bring as many as you would like.
You could give our listeners, Micah, maybe 1 to 2 key lessons you've learned in your business growth over the years. And there's probably a lot, but 1 or 2 that maybe pop out in your mind.
Make sure that you have the correct documentation in place. I know a lot of people are functioning as a business, but on paper they're not a business. I don't like to use the term mom and pop, because I was once a mom and pop. I was functioning as a business, but I wasn't a legitimate business. I didn't have the proper things in place if someone came into my establishment and failed, and I could have been sued. So I think before anyone would call themselves a business, I would make sure that you have all the proper documentation in place to keep yourself and the business protected. That's very, very important to have. Secondly would be, as I stated, as we mentioned just a little while ago, you have to be open to receiving information, constructive criticism. I think the minute you think that you've executed everything and there's no room for improvement or growth, you've already failed. I've never started this with the intention of, I know everything about shoes. I know everything about business. I'm like a little kid. I want to absorb and soak up everything. It doesn't even have to be necessarily related in my field of work. I've been able to learn a lot from you and Caitlin, despite what you guys may think. You just have to be open and receptive to the information that's out there. Because the minute you think that you figured everything out, or the minute that you think that you know everything, you don't.
That's some great points there, Micah. And one thing I wanted to ask that's kind of been sitting in my head is, how much of what you're doing is really like creating a new space? Because right, like in my mind, I think of shoe cobblers, like there's those people who are like in downtown buildings, like they have a little shoehorn station or in the airport. But are there really many other retail outlets that are just solely dedicated to cleaning and rejuvenating shoes like you? Or to me, it seems like you're almost like creating a niche little new space in this market. I may be wrong. I'm just curious.
I would say the market is growing. As far as myself, I've been made aware that there are other services like mine here in the city of New Orleans. I don't necessarily know where these services are being offered or how they are going about providing them.
Yeah.
But just in the state of Texas, I can name maybe 5 individuals who are doing and offering the same type of services that I am offering.
Oh wow.
I just tapped into it. I realized that it was needed in the area and nobody had really tapped into it. So, like I said, I believed in myself. I believed in my skill set. I felt comfortable with the knowledge that I had to start this journey. And, I just put one foot behind another and took it one day at a time. You know, I think for me, I would tell everybody, you don't need to have, I know some people will give different information, but you don't need to have everything figured out.
Right.
My hardest obstacle with this business was just starting.
Yep.
Just starting. This was actually something I did in high school as a hobby, to just bring in a little extra money for myself. So my father would actually buy me Jordans. I would wear those shoes. If I wasn't attached to them, I would clean them up, advertise them at school at lunchtime or early in the morning prior to school starting, because I knew someone was not able to get them. And
Right.
I would just add an additional charge to that. And then what I would do was, not only was I enjoying the items that I had, I was able to sell it and prevent myself from asking my parents to buy me something new. So it was just kind of like a whole full circle type of process. Because, you know, as a young kid, it's just like gimme, 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 gimme. And sometimes, you know, we just expect our parents just to always deliver. And for me, you know, I was always in the mindset of trying to save my parents some money. I just never wanted to just keep begging or asking, or, you know, I guess I was an entrepreneur way back before I even knew it, because I found creative ways to.
Just have to be born with it.
Well, you also
Yeah.
have a good thing, which is like I like to call it analysis paralysis. Like people sitting around trying to figure out every little thing. I'm like, just do. Like if you just act and do things each day and move the ball forward, like you're going to make some mistakes, but that's okay. Those are learning lessons and an opportunity to learn something new and improve. And just do things. I think you've really like distilled that really well, and I enjoyed the way you kind of explained it just now. Can you tell us, Micah, a little bit about like what do you see the future of the business being, and what are your goals for Kick So Clean in the future? Because it's such a young company and such a cool niche company that's really providing such a fabulous service in the community. I'm curious to hear what your future goals and plans for the company are.
The future goals and the future plans, I can answer that with great confidence. From the minute that I started this business, before I had any sort of traction or support, individuals came to me interested in franchising, interested in opening up multiple locations, and myself and the brand was just not ready for that. And that's what I would also like to educate to the viewers. You know, moving too fast could be detrimental to the business. You have to know where you are. I know everybody wants to have the multiple locations, but is the business sustainable with one location?
Yeah.
There's still things that we, as you stated just a little while ago, David, now that we're in a different position from Big Sexy Neon here on Come Around the Let, we're faced with new challenges. We're faced with different things. We're getting more clientele. So just figuring out all the little nicks and kinks, making sure that we have everything on our checklist executed. But in this year alone, we're going to be opening up a second location. I do not want to announce where that second location is going to be just yet, because I will tell the viewers it will be in the state of Louisiana.
Okay.
It will be in the state of Louisiana. But just being ready to take the next step, knowing that we have worked out all the kinks and the nicks to take this next step. Because like I said, from the minute that I got started, to have people come into Big Sexy Neon and introduce themselves to me and see something in the business, I want to be a part of the business at that point in time, was just a reminder of I'm doing something that's right. I got something here. And I didn't want to be so quick to just grab some money or just attach myself or the business with somebody. Because like I said, you know, there was just a lot of things that needed to be worked out at that point in time.
Yeah. I love that. I love that you just talked about, like, and I kind of think of it as like sustainable growth. Is
Yes.
such a great way that I loved hearing you say that just now. It's like everybody wants everything overnight. They want growth overnight, but like
Oh, no. It doesn't happen that way.
not in a successful way, right? Not doing it the right way. And I think that's just a really good lesson that you highlighted.
Well, you
right?
don't want your business to suffer either, especially in something like KIXXSOCLEAN. I mean, it's built on word of mouth and what wonderful customer service Micah provides to his customers and what wonderful services we get through KIXXSOCLEAN. And if you grow too fast and you start sacrificing those items, you're almost doing yourself a disservice to your growth.
I like to, I mean, I'm assuming word of mouth and referral is a huge part of your business. And it's like, if you do one bad job, you know, you're going to have that person say 10 negative things versus like the person you do a good job for says 10 positive things to 10 different potential new clients. And they're all worried about what other people say about your business, not just you.
Yes, word of mouth is word of mouth is very important. I will not sit here with you guys and act like I have not did anything incorrectly. Especially in the beginning phases, there were some mishaps on my part that I had to take full responsibility for. And as I said, I've been able to work those things out. Word of mouth is so important. And this might sound crazy, but I don't necessarily pride myself on the work that I offer and provide. I pride myself on the customer experience.
Yep.
I tell people this all the time. There will be a point in time where my face is not what they see when they walk into the establishment. I'm trying to slowly but surely, fade into the background. But people know that when they see me, they're going to get a great customer experience. I don't want anybody to leave my establishment feeling like they've been hacked or they're not getting the best bang for their buck. I educate people all the time. Especially being in this part of the city, I have a lot of business professionals that come in and they ask me all sort of questions. Are you knowledgeable about this type of leather? Are you familiar with working on this type of shoe? And to be completely honest, if it's something that I'm not comfortable with or something that I'm not knowledgeable about, I won't take it on. Yep. So it's not a matter of just experimenting on people's items. I am responsible for these people's items. And if myself or my team, if we can't transform these individuals' items, we won't take it on. And people can respect that honesty. People can respect that honesty because I've heard that they ship their shoes out and these services guaranteed that they could offer what they advertise and they drop the ball.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I don't offer anything that, all my services consist of regluing, repainting, restitching, sole replacement. Those are all things that myself and my team have mastered. We're not in the business to generate a whole bunch of money. We're in the business of the customer being satisfied. We want the customer to know that, hey, look, we're offering this service. Here's your items back. What do you think? And we're open to constructive criticism. How can we be better at what we do? Because there's services right now that I don't offer that somebody may be looking for.
Yeah.
So just being always honest with yourself, being honest with your team, being confident in the skill set. Like I said, it goes a long way. It goes a long way. I don't really think Caitlin comes to KIXXSOCLEAN so much for getting her items addressed. She just knows she's going to get great customer service. She knows she is working with a company that will go above and beyond to make sure that not only do they address the issue at hand, but they get her item back to her in a timely fashion.
Especially for business professionals, when you're downtown, it's convenience is key. That's certainly a customer service aspect that I look for because it's necessary sometimes. It's just lagniappe that my Gucci's in good shape.
When I was what you said too, Mike, it's the thing I love about your company and you is like, and I tell the people at the firm all the time, all of our team members, we talk about this all the time. It's like, look, if we provide an excellent customer service experience, and when we do make a mistake, we own it. Like the clients will not care. Like they will understand that we're human and we're going to make mistakes. But if like we own it and we give them an exceptional customer service experience or are honest with them, that's going to even bring them more towards us. Like if you chopped up my shoes on accident and like ran them through your lawnmower and just owned it and apologized and told me about what happened, I'd be like, man, I want to bring some more shoes to Micah to clean, because look at the ownership mentality he took. Look how great he treats me as a customer. And he really like just owns some things that happen. Like that's life. And so I think that's another piece of the success that you've had, is how you treat all your customers. This has been a really great discussion, Micah. I was hoping you could tell our guests, and our listeners everywhere we can find that they can find you if they need either some dress shoes or some tennis shoes or collector shoes cleaned, refurbished. They have a big group who want to bring them over to you. Tell them a bit about your website, online. Where can they find KIXXSOCLEAN at?
So you can find us at www.kicksoclean.com. There's a questionnaire that you can fill out in regards to if you want to have your items picked up from you, take advantage of that mobile service. Right now on our website, it still has our previous address, which is 1618 Arito Castle Haley Boulevard. And the reason why we had that there is because we're in such high demand that a lot of our clientele have made us aware that during our business hours, a lot of times they can't get to us. So what we're hoping to have in the next 2 to 3 months is an overnight drop-off location. That's why that address has not been changed. Because we don't want to miss out on any business, and we don't want to miss out on caring for anybody's items. As I stated, it's ball season. People are wearing shoes, they're damaging shoes, and I want them to be able to have access to us even if we're still closed. So just having that overnight drop box where they can just throw those items in there, we can retrieve them, start addressing on them. That'll be a great help to the customers and to us. But we are open Tuesday through Friday, at 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. As I mentioned, 730 Carondelet, Suite 103, every Saturday, 12 to 4. We're always closed on Sundays and Mondays, but the good thing about Sundays and Mondays are our mobile service are 24 hours. You can contact us Monday through Sunday. And if that time and that availability is open, we can execute that for you and pick up your items. So the physical location may be actually closed, but the mobile service is never actually closed. And a lot of people aren't aware of that. So I like to thank you guys for providing me the opportunity to spread that word. The mobile service is always open, guys. Always open. Now, mind you, we're not coming to your house at 1 o'clock in the morning, but it is open. It is always open.
Super convenient that you just go pick up the shoes too. And then I know you're on, you tell our listeners your Instagram handle and any other social media they can find you on.
Well, we're only on Instagram. And that is KIXXSOCLEAN NOLA. That's KIXXSOCLEAN NOLA, NOLA. KIXXSOCLEAN NOLA, no spaces, no underscores, just KIXXSOCLEAN NOLA. And any information as regards to contact information, website, this hours of operation. It is Mardi Gras time. Our business may be affected by parade routes and streets being closed. So we'll make sure to update our page and keep our customers informed on how to gain access to us. Or as I stated, we can always come to you.
Love it, Micah. It's really been a fabulous discussion. We're very big fans of your business, obviously, learning about it through Caitlin and getting to know you. We think what you're doing in the community is incredible, and you've got a great business, and I can't wait to follow along and see your growth as it goes and continues to grow. I think you have all the great traits that entrepreneurs who succeed have. And thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us on the Overruled podcast and telling our little listeners about your business so they can learn more about you and give you a shot with clean their shoes. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Micah.
Thank you, guys. And I'd like to add that you're hearing it from my mouth first, that you guys provided me with a platform. Nobody has ever interviewed me. I've shared this with you guys. No one has ever interviewed me. So I just want to thank you guys for having me as a guest. I am honored. I will not forget this day. Just thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about myself and how I got started with KIXXSOCLEAN. I'm forever grateful for that, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. You're an incredible person, and you have a great business, Micah. Thanks for being with us, Caitlin. This has been an incredible show. I love talking about Micah's business and some of the key things that he's doing that are being successful. Two of them that I pulled away immediately were his humility and how he is so humble and willing to grow and learn new lessons. And that dovetails with my second, was that he always is learning, reading, educating himself. Two great traits that I'm not surprised have taken him to where he is today. All right, so what a great episode, Caitlin. Interviewing Micah Smith with KIXXSOCLEANs. We're doing some quick hot takes. Two of mine, one I mentioned on the show was his humility. I loved it. I love that he was very humble. He's open to learning new things. The second thing I loved, my hot take from the show, was talking to Micah about how he had challenges, but he just always made it happen. We chatted a bit in the show about like analysis paralysis. I feel like people get bogged down in thinking they have to figure everything out instead of just doing and making things happen. And those are two hot takes I had from listening to Micah. How about you?
Well, and I think you bring up such a good point too. It's great advice for young entrepreneurs looking to do the same thing. And Micah has really found this niche in what we're all familiar with, right? Like cobbler services and shoe shining. But Micah has found a way to kind of adapt that business to what the modern individual needs in terms of luxury sneakers, boots, shoes, dress shoes, everything like that. And I find it really encouraging. One of the things that stood out to me is he is enabling us to kind of overcome some of these fast fashion trends. It's a more sustainable way to take care of our items and our shoes. And, in today's climate and market, I think that's incredible for somebody to not just kind of pump things out as quickly as they can just for the sake of making money. He's letting us be a little bit more conscious of our fashion choices.
Yep. And those are our hot takes for today's episode. This has been the Overruled Podcast, brought to you by the Scott Vicknair Law Firm. Thank you all for listening. Caitlin, thank you for co-hosting with me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
I wouldn't have missed it.
This has once again been the Overruled Podcast. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Scott Vicknair, injury attorneys, we fight for the win.
Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, investment, or legal advice. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action.